Hello and welcome to A-Level Photography. I am Mr. Harrison and I teach art and photography at St John's. I'll be taking you through a number of slides which will outline the A-Level course, and I'll be explaining a little bit about how the course is assessed, the equipment you will need for the course, and we'll also have a look at some examples of work produced by the students, and then I'll have a look at some questions that have been asked on previous occasions by students wanting to study photography. So let me introduce you to the team. We're a team of 5 full-time experienced teachers. Mrs. Spokes is the head of art and the arts faculty. She also teaches photography. Mrs. Spokes is also a member of the senior leadership team at St John's. Next up is me, Mr. Harrison, and I teach art and photography, and I've done so since arriving at St John's about 13 years ago. Other teachers in the department also teach art and photography. We have Mrs. Steenbergen, Mrs. Tin and Miss O'Brien. So as you can see, we're a strong team with lots of experience. Results in the department are excellent, and I think this comes down to a strong teaching team who are always available for your support and advice. So, the course. A-Level Photography is a 2-year course broken down into 2 units. Well, we call it a 2-year course, but the course begins in September of Year 12 and finishes in May of Year 13, so it's closer to a year and a half in length. Unit 1 is the coursework unit and is worth 60% of the A-level. This unit of work starts in September of Year 12. In this unit of work, you will be introduced to a wide range of techniques and processes which will inform your practice, and this will be supported by learning from and studying the work of other photographers working across the last 150 years or so. Unit 2 is referred to as the exam unit and is worth 40% of the A-level. It is an externally assessed unit and is a much shorter unit of work in terms of time. As you can see, this unit of work, although is worth 40%, is just over 3 months long. You will be taught by 2 experienced photography teachers and be introduced to working with a variety of materials and techniques. Some of these will be traditional techniques, and there will also be opportunities for working digitally and learning Photoshop skills. We look for a creative approach from our students and encourage experimentation and in some cases mixed media work. We teach some traditional photographic methods, and we can do this at St John's as we have a dark room which is used when we want to create photograms, process 35mm film, or create black and white photographs from our 35mm film. You'll learn how to make a pinhole camera and create photographs and photograms, and you'll also be able to create images from the pinhole camera that you have made. I've already mentioned that we encourage students to have a creative approach to their photography, and this comes not only in being creative with ideas but also with techniques. This slide shows 4 pages from student folders, and as you can see, students have worked with collage and photomontage, as you can see in the top left, image transfer, which is a process of transferring photographs onto material or wood. Students also draw onto photographs and sew onto them, and we introduce students to photographers who work in these ways. This slide shows a selection of digitally manipulated images by students. So as you can see, we have students who explore a broad range of working methods. The images shown have all been manipulated digitally on Photoshop. So the creative approach can be very hands-on in terms of working physically on your images, like in the previous slide, or it can be done using digital manipulation. What we ask is that students explore all processes to begin with, and then specialise as they move through the year 12. It is important that students learn from researching and understanding the work of other photographers. The course requires this, and students need to evidence this in their folders of work. The pages on this slide are once again from student folders. In the photograph on the left, this student has researched the work of Alexander Japp, who photographs architectural details. The student has researched Jack's work and understood the reasons behind his work, and then following this, has created their own responses, which you can see on the right hand side of the page there. The right hand photograph shows a student creating work inspired by Aaron Siskin's photographs of urban decay and graffiti. It is important that students reflect on their work as well, and therefore there is an element of writing in the course. Inspiration for photography can of course come from many sources. We encourage students to create work in response to the world around them, and many take inspiration from art, sculpture, film, TV, the list is endless. This slide shows some photography work inspired by the American painter David Sell, who juxtaposes images from contemporary culture to create images that have a chaotic feel. In this work here, the student was using youth culture as a starting point. And the images that have been created have a sort of pop art feel as well. Your work will be regularly assessed by your teachers, and you will get regular feedback on how to improve. We assess your work against 4 objectives. AOs, or assessment objectives. AO1, development of ideas. AO2, refinement of ideas through experimentation. AO3, recording ideas. And AO4, your final outcomes. Each assessment objective is worth 25%, so has equal weighting. I'll explain a little bit more about these shortly, but as you can see, the word ideas crops up a lot, so we are creating ideas-based photography. It is important, therefore, that we learn from the work of other practitioners and we understand the reasons why photographers create images. What are their ideas? So let's have a think about assessment of work and the assessment objectives. The next 4 slides look at the assessment of the course, one objective at a time. Assessment objective number 1 then, develop ideas through sustained and focused investigations informed by contextual and other sources demonstrating analytical and critical understanding. Well, what does this mean? Well, essentially, this is how a student can develop a project from a starting point. The starting point may be portraiture, landscape, or time. The students decide. The project will develop, and there will be evidence in the students' folders of learning from looking at the work of others. As you can see in the slide, the students are learning from looking at the work of Maurizio Anzeri on the left, Man Ray in the centre, and Surrealism on the right, and they create work in response to their findings. As the project moves forward, students continue to look for inspiration from practitioners and processes. Students do this, and their work and their project develops. So, assessment objective number 2. Explore and select appropriate resources, materials, techniques and processes, reviewing and refining ideas as work develops. This objective is testing a student's ability to experiment with processes and techniques. Some of those may be hands-on techniques such as sewing or collaging, as we've already mentioned in previous slides, but also takes into account experimentation with lighting, angles of vision, lenses and digital manipulation. As you can see here, the students have once again reflected on their work, assessing the success of what they have done. This is a very important part of the course. The focus for assessment objective number 3 is recording of ideas. Record ideas, observations and insights relevant to intentions, reflecting critically on work and progress. This assessment objective is looking at students' ideas, mind maps, mood pages, recording images, so essentially they're photographs. But as you can see from the wording here, reflecting on work and progress, it is important you record your thoughts and reflect on what you do. Okay, so let's look at the 4th assessment objective, the final objective, again worth 25%. Present a personal and meaningful response that realises intentions and makes connections between visual and other elements. So this is the student's ability to create final outcomes to projects, following experiments and learning from the work of others. It's sometimes referred to as a final piece, and as I said, it carries 25%. So, we need to be well planned for this. Your teachers, of course, will help. planning and preparation towards your final piece. I've put in here some examples of pieces of work which have inspired students in the past. Works by Christian Boltanski on the left, installation pieces where writing and photography combine to make a sculpture. In the middle, David Hockney, and on the right hand side, Patrick Winfield's image of a landscape which is put together with a whole range of different photographs from different angles. A few more examples here of pieces of work that have inspired students in the past. Work again by Boltanski on the top left, an installation piece. Bottom left, Antonio Mora using digital manipulation, blending images together. Dan Mountford on the right hand side using a mixture of graphics and photography to create exciting pieces. We've also got again image by David Hockney and another by Maurizio Anzeri who sews onto photographs. So the summer homework, there are 3 tasks. They're available on our website and I'm sure you've already had a look at those, and for some of you may have even got started on those. Task number 1, we're asking you to create a visual timeline for the history of photography. We'd like you to gain a really good understanding on how photography developed from the mid-19th century to the present day, looking at key moments and key individuals in the development of the medium. We'd also like a selection of images to support your findings on this. Second task, we'd like you to take the opportunity of using isolation as subject matter for a range of photographs. We've all experienced the feeling of isolation over recent weeks, so we'd like you to take a selection of photographs that best communicate that feeling or idea of isolation. When we say a selection, I'm looking for about 20 to 30 photographs that maybe best support or best illustrate how you felt over the last few weeks. Task 3 I've broken into 2 exercises. The first exercise I've called 2 dozen. Pick one location, stand in one spot, and I'd like you to just have a go at making 24 unique photographs while standing in the same place. You can't move your feet, but you'll need to change your angle of vision. You can look down, you can look up, you can look behind you, but keep your feet in the same place. And the second exercise, photograph a dozen abstracts of common objects. You'll need to photograph from a close viewpoint so that the object becomes almost unidentifiable. Think carefully here about the light and focus. So each of these tasks challenges you and it will stretch you in terms of your ability to take photographs and think creatively about image making. These tasks are on the school website under the Sixth Form tab, and we'd like you to complete these before the course starts when you come back in September. If you can bring those with you, that would be fantastic. So the final slide here, the most common questions that we get asked when students come to study photography are, what equipment are we going to need? Well, you're going to probably need a camera. We're doing photography, so it's likely you're going to need a camera at some point, but most of us have access to a camera already. We have a camera phone, and that's fine to begin with. What we don't want you to do is go out before the course starts and buy an expensive camera. We are creating ideas-based photography, so the idea is far more important than having the latest flashy camera which is going to cost a fortune. It's important that obviously you have some means of taking photographs, and as the course develops and moves on, you may be able to invest in buying something a bit more upmarket, but for the moment something quite basic will be fine. I can advise on that when you start the course. You're also going to need a sketchbook, an A3 sketchbook. Those are available to buy from the school, from the department, but if you want to buy one in advance of the course to put your summer homeworks in, that is also fine. It's likely you're going to need to buy some film and some darkroom paper, which we sell through the department as well. So there will be a slight cost to studying photography, but it won't be extortionate. and we'll advise, as we say, once the course begins on that. In light of the recent pandemic, we would encourage students to have their own equipment, such as scissors or glue, for sticking and cutting images and putting into their books. And if you've got a laptop, then that avoids any use of school computers and sharing and having to wipe down keyboards, etc. So it just makes things a little bit easier. But if you don't have one, that's fine. We can get around that. If you've got any other queries about anything to do with the course, then please email me. My email address is on the screen there. It's mharrison@stjohns.excalibur.org.uk, and I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope to see you all in September when the course starts. Good luck, and I will see you soon.